Hello, thank you for clicking on my content and welcome to my first build video. I've built many things over the years, many nerdy things, and I plan to start sharing some of these with you, and this is my first one. It is my first time videoing, also my first time going to be using video editing software, so God knows how craptastic this may end up being. Already you may have noticed the format isn't quite right, but here we are. Regardless, thank you for tuning in. Hey, quickly, before we get started, pop quiz. How many things we once believed or knew have changed with different discoveries or new sciences? The question I have for you is, between the years 1985 and 1987, if a young kid counted his full set of muscles, how many would he be able to count up to? And could you tell me how many muscles a Japanese kid would count? I'm guessing, in most cases, you want to say around 600 muscles is the answer for both examples of kids. This is not correct. American kids could only count to 236, where Japanese kids could count up to 418. Now, I'm not talking about the human body, obviously. No, I'm talking about the short-lived, but amazing and wonderful muscle figures. That's muscle, as in millions of unusual strange creatures lurking everywhere. Though, in Japan, it was just known as kinnikuman, which pretty much translates to muscle men. So, not too different. It was a visit to Kmart with my mom and grandfather, or Papa as I called him, that first gave me line of sight to these toys. That night, I went home with 3 4-packs, a 10-pack, and 1 28-packs. Those are the 3 types of denominations you can purchase them in. I was instantly hooked. In absolutely no time at all, I had the mail away poster and was feverishly checking off every one as I got them until I had them all. Getting them through more purchasing or schoolyard trades. See, the 28-pack were a specific assortment of characters, never changing. But the 2 smaller packs were random, meaning you had to do a lot of schoolyard trades to fulfill your complete set, which, like I said, I did. But even as important as I held all of my figures, including the muscle ones, I grew, and younger Terry was not the same type of collector Terry today is. Many of his toys went to garage sales or yard sales. Bags of 10 muscles, 50 cents. Bags of 5 G.I. Joes, $5. I absolutely shudder at the thought of what I essentially just gave away when I was younger. Now, as my older ass will now do from time to time, I'll look fondly at long-lost items that held a special place in my heart. M.U.S.C.L.E was a big one, just as big for me as He-Man ever was. So I decided to find a way of getting them all again, but not just the measly 236 I had before, no, but also the unknown treasure that existed of the additional 182 Japanese characters I never knew about. The internet didn't exist back then. Some of us remember the struggles. My search started, and ultimately, I found a reproduction set from 2008 that had them all. When I found it, and the box was secure in my home, I opened it up and I cannot express how quickly my 12-year-old self was front and center. Upon quick reflection though, the only thing I wasn't sure of is, how was I going to display these? As time has gone passing by, I wanted more of my stuff visible, wanted to be able to see it on a daily basis, or having people be able to see it and have that nostalgic feeling or remember something. I don't want everything back in boxes and storage. So I now invite you to explore the answer to that question I had as I design, create, and construct a display fitting for these 418 little wrestlers. But let me throw a disclaimer before we get started. This is not a how-to video by any means. I'll be working with tools and gadgets that can hurt you bad. Anyone who wants to tell me, oh, I'm doing something wrong, or I'm lucky that I still have all my digits. I know this. If anything, I want you to see this video as how not to do it. I'm actually being very conscientious about what I'm doing and being pretty safe-ish. I'm paying very close attention to the operation, mechanics, and potential dangers these tools have. And safety is always very much on my mind. It really has to be, considering how often I end up getting hurt anyway. But what do you say? You ready to take a trip down memory lane and revisit M.U.S.C.L.E? Maybe for the first time? Let's get started. All right. To start, I've already found the area for the display, measured it, and found the basics of what I want to build. It will be approximately 52 inches high by about 25 inches wide and 8 inches deep. I'm going to have 6 shelves, 3 that will hold 77 characters and 2 that will hold 66 characters, and the top shelf, the final shelf, will hold 55. That will give me a total of 418. Now, obviously it'd be easy just to make a shelf and put them on there, but I want them to be semi-stationary, so I'll be taking and attaching each figure to their own plastic stand. The stands are a little shy of 1 inch in diameter, and they are about 1/8 inch tall or deep, if you want to put it that way. I'll be making 2 level shelves. First, a 3/4 inch shelf, just the basic shelf. Then I'm going to take and make a top level of only 1/4 inch deep wood. I'll drill the holes where I want all the figures to be. Then I'll attach this thin layer of this now hold out wood to the top of the 3/4 inch shelf. And now what we'll have is a 2-layer shelf, 1 layer that's just the actual shelf, and then the next layer just this thin board that will be able to hold each of these in their own individual place. That way the figures are going to be a little bit less pressed to move around. So I've already made a mock example on my grid paper of where I want the holes to be. So now what I got to do is go to my wood and basically lay out the design and start drilling the holes. So the purpose of these holes is to put these stands with the figure glued onto that, which means that their feet are coming up from here, putting them inside the hole. Now they can't move. They're where they need to be. However, there's about a little less than 1/8 of an inch of a hole that's still unaccounted for, which initially I didn't think was going to be a big deal, except when you have the figures on the stand, they don't just come up straight. Some of them are wider, some of them have wider legs, things of that nature. So this top of this has to be flush with the top of that, which means, okay, great, I could do that, but that means I need to fill about 1/8 of an inch on the bottom here. I wouldn't have been able to drill the holes only out to that depth, so drilling them all the way through really was my only option. So now I got to decide, how am I going to fill that hole in there so that these sit just flush. Now, not on this shelf, but on a shelf nonetheless. This is going to be here. It's going to be screwed tightly to the shelf. And again, this is going to be here. This shelf will ultimately be white and a lot thinner. This is going to be colored. I'm going to color it like a different color wrestling mats colored, since this is for little wrestling figures. So again, so then this will go here, only sitting flush. God, it's so close. It's even less than 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, I got to figure out what I'm going to do there. I could cut. I have some round dowels that are 3/4 of an inch, which would fit in the middle of there, and this would sit on top of it. But that's a very thin cut. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I will try that first. That would be the easiest thing to do. That is what happens when you like to do projects without fully committing to the plans and just winging it. That's how I like to do it. Fake it till you make it. So when it comes down to it, it's all about ideas, right? So I have measured this and the gap. So in theory, I should be able to cut the slices that I need. Now what I'm expecting, because it's the way that works for me, that's very little room between the blade and this. So I suspect the blade is going to grab the cut after I make it, shatter it, blow it up, kick it back into my face, something along those lines. So only one way to find out. All right. Good news, none of that happened. Bad news is, Hungry Hippo ate it. So, let's see. All right, let's see. All right, so there's that. So this goes there, this goes there, and flush. A little bit over, but not enough to care.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Okay, everybody, were we counting how many we made? 2 sticks, multiple passes, got the bucket. So, how many did we cut? Cue the Jeopardy music. How many do you think? So, we need 418. 2 sticks took up 260. There's actually 260 in here. So, not bad. We'll cut the other 2 sticks, cut them all the way through. That way we have some extras, because some of them inevitably will be a little bit off, meaning that instead of being completely flat, there's something probably going to be at an angle, I'm sure. We can't have that. So, not bad. So, I'll cut the other 2, and then we'll sand around the edges, make them nice and clean. And then we'll be in a position, we'll be able to glue them down to the shelf. Here we go. So, let's get another count tally. How many times in this project so far has Terry made himself bleed? Well, the good news is a running saw, a spinning blade, has not once hit me yet. However, I have hit stationary blades. 1, 2, that wasn't really counting. 3, and this was a good one. That one bled like a sieve. So we are up to 4. 4 so far. Not bad. Okay, it's time for what have we learned? So, given the way that I ended up doing this project, which again, not really knowing, just doing it as I went along, this has come out okay. The problems I had were self-inflicted, not because of the way that I did it, just how I did it. Little things are a little screwy. The lineup of those on a couple slabs were a little off when I made my grid lines, so the back line on these smaller ones do have a little bit of a wave. That's easily fixed with just some wood putty. That's not going to be an issue, but it's wrong, something I should have accounted for. The big thing is this. So I knew that no matter what, if I was going to use a spade drill like this, I was going to have to go through every one. Now what I didn't want to do is have 6 of these boards and have to do every hole for every 6. I wanted to do them all at one time. So that's why I have one solid shelf with the ones that went all the way through put on top of. Now, as we saw before, I had all the holes. The problem was this was sitting below the line. That wasn't going to work, so I had to bring it up. Therefore, I needed to put these plugs back in. So how would I have done that and avoided having to put these plugs? So my initial thought of using a hole saw could have worked, and here's how. So I would have had to go all the way through in the middle, but what I could have done is when the board was solid, I could have put the holes where I wanted to be. I could have drilled down and only went as far as I needed to. So in doing that, I'd have just done this, but I would have had to do each one separately. However, I would have ended up with this look with a hole in the middle, which I could have just puttied in, sanded, and it would have been done. So ultimately, this works. This took some work. This would have worked a little better, would have required a little bit less work. And I would have avoided one other part that I'm going to have to do. So in some cases, this goes in, it fits just perfect. Other cases, the hole's just a little bit small because of the paint or a little bit of the wood shavings. So I am going to have to go in with this Dremel tool and go in again. Earlier you saw me sand them out, which was good, that's fine, but now that the paint's on there and they're in there, in some cases just when I put those in, if it's too tight or doesn't quite fit, I'll just have to ream this out a little bit. Not a big deal. So at this point, looking good. Could have been worse. Definitely could have been better.
Now, the reason I am doing it this way, it seems overcomplicated, but my intention is to have the shelves to be removable from the main uprights, and so by just having rods going across with these guides, they're not affixed, they're just essentially resting in kind of a cradle. The backsplashes I'm about to put on allows it to be, when the shelf comes out, it's now its own self-contained little display. The backsplash on the uprights will cover everything in the back, but again, this way when the shelf is out, if you have it out, it's its own little display on its own.
Where are we now? Well, we just got done painting a whole lot, and not realizing that the SIM card was not in the camera, I recorded absolutely zero of it. So, what we've done is the backsplash has been painted halfways. It's got to be turned over and painted the other side. The upright, half of it has been painted. So, all it's left to do is getting this painting done. This has gone about 70% to plan, which for me is actually pretty good. Okay, a little bit of non-recorded progress. Just went through and painted the uprights, or I should say the shelf holders, the inside, the backing there, and the uprights. The inside of the shelves are matching the blue of the backing and the backs of the shelves, and green to match the trim around the shelves themselves. Haven't put this together with all the colors, but we'll see what it looks like when we get there. Next step is going to be actually assembling the uprights and attaching the back, and we'll be well on our way to getting this thing done. Boy, that seemed longer than we probably thought it would, right? Well, if you are still here, I absolutely give to you my most sincerest of gratitude, and I hope you enjoyed. The idea to do this project in video was first given to me by a buddy of mine the night of November 23rd, 2024. November 30th is when film started to roll. Let's play one last game. What is the date for me today? How long did I work on this? I won't keep you in suspense. Tonight, New Year's Eve, 2024. Happy New Year. This was just evenings and weekends that I worked on this.
And with that, a whole week was wasted on just the corner posts and turnbuckles alone, which I end up having to totally redesign, as I initially used wood, and it was just, it just did not work. It didn't look real, loose, and cheap. Ultimately, I'm very happy with what I end up with instead.
So that's it. I hope to make more videos and give you all something fun to watch and maybe make you forget about the areas of reality that exist right now that may try to keep you down. I want to end this video as I think I'll probably end up ending all future videos, which is a quote from my grandfather, Papa, that he once told me. He was fixing an electrical switch, and I asked him if he was an electrician, kind of scared that he was working on it, and he said no. So even more fearful, I asked, well, how can you be changing this switch? And what would become the main motto of life was about to be told to me, which was, he told me, you can figure out how to do anything you want if you just stare at it long enough. And I'll tell you, for me, that has been damn true in my life. So, thank you again. Take care, everybody. Always my favorites, Screw Kid and Sawmiller Man.